Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to struggle with depression and feel like they just cannot find joy in anything? Even when they try really hard, researchers have been looking for an answer by using a high-tech method that watches the brain in two ways at the same time. And today we are diving deep into that world. To understand this, imagine you are watching a sports game. You could have a camera that shows you the big picture of where players are standing on the field, which tells you a lot about their formation. That is like an fMRI scan, which tracks blood flow to see which parts of the brain are working, but then you also have a microphone that records the crisp, fast-paced chatter of the players in real time. That is like an EEG, which records the electrical pulses of your brain. By recording both at once, scientists can see not just where the activity is happening, but exactly when those lightning-fast electrical signals travel across the brain. When researchers study people with major depressive disorder, they often look for what we call biomarkers. Think of a biomarker like a signature. It is a biological tell that says, here is what is happening under the hood. Scientists want to find a signature for depression that is so clear we could use it to track how well a therapy is working. They looked at 9 different studies to see what this double-tech approach could tell us about things like anhedonia, which is that crushing inability to feel pleasure, and even how people respond to strong treatments like ketamine. The results from these studies were really interesting. In one case, they found that when people were in a neurofeedback session, the way they controlled their brain activity was linked to their levels of pleasure. When the brain activity signals got stronger, the feelings of joy seemed to improve a bit. The numbers they used, called correlation coefficients, were quite high in the world of psychology. A correlation is basically a scale from -1 to 1 that tells us how closely two things move together. If you see a number like 0.69, that is a pretty strong hint that there is a real connection there. And it is likely not just a lucky guess or a random fluke. Another fascinating finding was about how the brain synchronizes. Think of it like a dance. For parts of your brain to work together to handle mood, they have to move in perfect rhythm. If one part is dancing to a fast song and the other is moving to a slow waltz, they are going to trip over each other. The researchers found that in people with depression, this dance is sometimes out of sync. Using electromagnetic pulses to nudge the brain back into rhythm worked much better when the pulses were timed to fit the natural electrical waves of the brain. When the timing was just right, the brain connectivity improved, which actually predicted how well the patients felt later on. Now, we have to talk about the catch. While these results sound like a breakthrough, the researchers were very honest about the limitations. Science is a bit like a puzzle, and right now we are looking at a few pieces rather than the whole picture. Many of these studies had very small groups of people involved. When you only look at a small sample, it is harder to be sure that the results apply to everyone with depression. It is like trying to guess the flavor of a whole pie by tasting one tiny crumb. So, what does this all mean for us? Right now, this technology is like a high-end sports car sitting in the garage. It is an amazing and incredibly powerful tool for understanding how the brain works during specific treatments. But we are not quite ready to use it as a standard checkup tool at your local doctor. The biggest takeaway here is that individual brain chemistry is incredibly complex, and there is no single switch for depression. However, the fact that we can now watch the brain and influence that rhythm gives us a lot of hope for more precise treatments in the future. Instead of guessing which medication might work, one day we might be able to map out your brain's specific rhythm and pick the treatment that matches your personal Dan. This is still a growing field, and as more researchers work together across different countries, we're going to see a much clearer picture. I think the strength here is that we are finally moving beyond just guessing and starting to see the actual mechanics of our moods. What do you think about using brain rhythms to help treat depression? Would you be open to a type of therapy that tunes your brain like a guitar? It is a fascinating space, and I cannot wait to see where it goes next. Thanks for spending time in the Mind Lab today. If you found this stuff as cool as I did, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you do not miss our next dive into the mystery of the mind. See you next time.